Welcome everyone. This is a joint meeting of the DABC and the BLAC to talk about the progress of our work on the 3 school renovations. My name's Emily Figdor. I'm the District 2 representative and co-chair of this committee along with Councillor Dion. And I wanted to just let everyone know that Superintendent Batana is unable to join us tonight, so we will proceed without him. And especially given that this is a joint meeting of the 2 committees, I'd love to go forward with, or to get started with introductions first. So if you can tell us your name, which committee you're on, and your connection to Portland Public Schools, that would be terrific. So I'm going to send it over to you, Councillor Dion, to get us started.
Good evening, everyone. Mark Dion, District 5 Councillor. I'm also chair of the Finance Committee, and I'm currently a member of the DABC. Thank you.
And then maybe I'll pass it on to Sarah Thompson, and then maybe we can pass it, Sarah, if you can pass it to the next person, and we can get through introductions that way.
Hi, Sarah Thompson, former school board member, now community member, and on the District Advisory Building Committee. Thank you. Sorry, Jess.
Hi, Jess Marino, DABC, and I am a Portland parent and staff member. Matt.
Good evening, all. Matthew Winch, a parent of a couple kids in Portland schools and a DABC member. I'll pass it to Dave Lewis.
Hi there. Good evening. David Lewis. I'm the owner's representative on the 3 current BFOF projects and was owner's representative on the Lyseth School project. And Mr. Stolfin.
Steve Stolfin, Facilities Director of Portland Public Schools. And then we'll pass it to Assistant Director Tamara Sweeney.
Good evening, Tamara Sweeney, Assistant Director of Facilities with the Portland Public Schools. I'll pass it down to Mark.
Very good. I think everyone may know me, but Mark Lee with Harriman, architect, principal, and excited to be with all of you tonight here. So it looks like we're getting more faces, so I'm going to pass it off. Aura, I'll pass it over to you.
Thanks, Mark. I'm Aura Russell-Better, District 4 school board member, DABC member, and I chair the building level advisory committee. So I have no idea who. Maybe everybody's already spoken. I got on a little late. Everybody left. Terry, did you go?
No, I just got on late too. Sorry. Hi, I'm Terry Young. I'm the Executive Director of Operations for the Portland Schools. Is anybody missing?
How about Emily Hurley?
I'll hop on. I'm Emily Hurley. I am a teacher at Presumpscot School and a parent at Reiki.
Maybe if you haven't yet introduced yourself, if you can jump in, that would be great.
Sure, I'm Jeff Levine. I'm on the BLAC, if I have that acronym correct. I'm a parent of one Portland Public School kid now, and another one that graduated a couple years ago.
Evening, everyone. Charlie Marengi, lead teacher at Reiki and on the BLAC.
Emily
I'll chime in quickly. I'm Emily Watt. I'm with Harriman as well.
All right. Excellent. Elizabeth, do you want to introduce yourself real fast?
Yep, I'm Elizabeth Lapierre. I'm the parent of a student at Presumpscot School and now Lyman Moore, and I'm on the Building Level Advisory Committee for Presumpscot.
Thank you so much. And then Annie and Nicole, welcome. If you can introduce yourselves real fast, and then we're going to get started. We're just finishing up introduction.
Sure. I'm Annie Douthin. I'm a lead teacher over at Reiki School. And I'm Nicole Bradeen, the principal at Longfellow Elementary.
Excellent. So welcome, everyone. So our agenda for tonight is that we are going to talk about the progress of construction at each of the 3 schools. We're going to do an update on FFE, furniture, fixtures, and equipment. Not the E. Someone can correct me later. And then we're going to do talk about the latest in terms of the contingencies for each of the projects to give us a sense of where we are in terms of the budget. And then I'm going to hold approval of the minutes because I'm not certain we have quorum yet. So we will see if we have enough committee members at the end of the meeting to consider and approve the minutes.
Emily, Ben
So
said
with
he was
that, I'm
hopping
gonna-
on. Sorry. Ben said he should be hopping on, and someone else said they don't have a link, so I'm going to help with that.
Okay. All right. So with that, I'm going to hand it to the Harriman team to walk us through the slide deck. Mark, is that you?
It is. So I'm hopeful that everyone can see the presentation. And as we go through, in typical fashion, I will pause at various points, and if there are hands raised, I will look to co-chair Figdor to facilitate any questions on the content. So with that, our standard format, we're going to, as Emily said, we're going to move number 1 down to the end here, see if we've got a quorum. So we're going to move right into our construction update and FFE, which you got the equipment right on the E, Emily, so that's good. And then contingency update, which includes a discussion regarding the Reiki roof repair. And so we'll dig into that in a little bit of detail. And then just looking at next steps. And so right into the construction update for Longfellow, the lower level is our phase 2B. And we are completing the toilet rooms and the art room at that lower level. And flooring and ceilings to be installed. This phase is wrapping up in about 2 months' time. So that's exciting to finally see that area being completed. Yeah. Also in phase 2 is the elevator, and so the shaft is installed, and we'll see some pictures of that in the construction photos here in a minute. And they just need to get the cab installed in the shaft itself. They are preparing for the exterior siding for the shaft itself. That's not quite on yet. But that total phase of the elevator is anticipated to be complete in April. And that will be able to finally connect by accessible means to all 3 floors. The phase 2D is the 2-story addition. Right now, what you will see are the exterior walls are all framed, the interior walls, the framing, and the stairs, stairs that go from the lower level up to the main level are installed. The steel of them has been installed now, still installing all the railings and whatnot. And then the roof is being put on to the addition, and they're getting ready to put the brick on to the addition as well. And that is expected to be completed in February. So all goes well. That will be wrapping up in a couple months as well. Same as the lower level work. So I'll pause for a second here. We're moving on to the next description of work. Okay. Currently the kindergarten phase 4B is going on, and so that's good. We don't see any delays or impacts on the teachers moving in for that area. We have had in-wall inspections by the city finally for that, so that's exciting to finally be able to close all that in and start getting ready for the finishes in those phases. And then there's an area that we had in this phase, which was the location of the resource room and toilet rooms in the area of the elevator on the second floor. And we're going to shift that scope to be completed at the time the entire second floor is done. So that will move to phase 5. And we'll see the phase 5 timing in a minute here. So this is anticipated to be complete, this current phase of construction, in about a month. So right now, the schedule is that the custodial staff will start moving things in the afternoon of January 12th. And then staff will set up in the kindergarten rooms January 13th. And then, so that should get us to the point of being learning ready, as we are now terming it. And that's been reviewed with Nicole and folks at school. So should be all set in that regard for the completion of that phase. Okay. Phase 5 is the big combined phase now of the second floor. So, we had a big meeting this past week here to walk through all the different moves that are going to be orchestrated as part of that. So there's a lot of choreography of moving parts that has to happen in order to clear out the second floor to allow the contractor to undertake all that work at one time. And so there's a lot of resources and staff that need to get scheduled for all this to happen. That's going to occur. The moves are going to occur over a series of 3 different periods of time. So the 12th, 13th, the 19th, 20th of January, and the 26th, 27th, and then in February, the 16th and 17th. So, and that will allow the contractor to have full access at the start of it will be the February break. And so then they'll, in earnest, be able to do all of the classroom work and in infrastructure for the entire floor during the remainder of the school year going into the summer. And so that will really be the lion's share of the remainder of the work at that point. And so that's pretty exciting to finally get to that point. So I'll pause for a second. And Emily, I think Aura has her hand up.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Mark, I'm just wondering, thanks. I'm wondering about the dates that you noted here. How are you feeling about, how confident you are in those dates, just with the history of the challenges and issues for our staff with the moving? I just really want to be thoughtful about, communicating that and preparing folks for that. So just wondered if you could give a little.
Yeah, well, I wasn't at the meeting. I know Steve, Tamara, and like I said, Nicole, I think we're at that meeting to discuss the level of coordination that needs to happen. We're not worried on the contractor's part. We feel pretty confident in their ability to complete the work, and I believe so. There's I think a very thorough and concerted effort to understand how much of the school resources are available to make the moves when they need to. And I don't know if Dave, I think you were at that meeting as well, Dave Lewis. No, you weren't. Okay. I don't know if anyone that was at the meeting wants to talk a little bit more detail about just the degree of coordination and preparation.
I can speak to it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yep.
So there's a couple classrooms in each one of these weekends. We're going to start on a third. Nicole has subs that are coming to be with the students, and then she's going to have the teachers pack their rooms. That Thursday evening, we'll have staff move those 2 classrooms. And then I believe Nicole has subs the next day also, where the teachers can set their classrooms up on that Friday. So we feel confident that we have the staffing levels to accommodate all these moves. Did you have any specific questions, Aura?
I think it's just, so there are movers coming in, right? For after they've packed up.
We're probably going to be using our own custodial staff to make these moves.
Okay. Yeah, I guess, I'm just concerned about, the stress level that staff's already, the extreme stress level they've already been under. So, just a disruption. I know there's going to have to be some disruption to kids, but, with staff having to do the moving and the subs, I guess I just, just hope that the time frame can be, as consistent as what we're saying it is here for folks to know, when things can be done, but just acknowledging how much it is for staff to manage all that. So,
do you mean teachers by staff when you say staff?
Yeah, because they're doing all the packing up and can't do the, their classroom work on top of having to do all the packing and moving. I did go and visit just to kind of see what they have to do. And it's a lot. So.
And that, I mean, Nicole could add to, what she's asked her teachers to do if she would like, but I think she's, scheduled the subs and stuff to be able to watch the classrooms while they're packing up. I do understand there is a lot of stuff to pack. Yes.
We have a schedule. We have subs. I hope there's not some flu issue that prohibits, movers and teachers to be out. Obviously, none of us hope for that. But, I hope that we're firm on the construction being done and no other further oopses, because everything is kind of on a tight deadline. I think, I'm sending the staff the final updated plans tonight, actually. And I think, the question, they were very appreciative of allocating extra hours to move and to do that sort of thing. And I just, I hope that we don't face any challenges, because that's not a great way to set up January. But I know everyone else is thinking the same thing. So we'll keep our fingers crossed, and we'll go from there. Thanks.
Great. Super. Thank you both very much for that additional detail.
I see an additional question from Jeff. Go ahead,
Jeff.
Hi, thanks. This seems like a doable schedule, but it seems like a fairly tight one. How much work has been done to make sure that inspections knows about the importance of keeping to the schedule so that they can adjust and be prepared to do inspections when needed and all that? I know that they often are, take longer than they should, put it that way.
Yeah, I think Jeff, we're plugged right into them now, and I think we've had a lot of really great open communication with the inspection department, so that hopefully we're going to avoid any potential delays caused on that front. So that's actually been working pretty smoothly in the last several inspections that we've done. So again, barring no major illnesses or outings from members in the permitting department, we should be all set there. So we feel very comfortable with the schedule that we put forward from the contractor to be able to meet these dates.
Great, thanks.
Okay.
Excellent. We're good to move forward.
All right. So these are some of the images of recent progress at Longfellow. So the larger image on the left is the rear addition. And so you can see this is at the lower level, floor level. And so, and there are steps going down to the site that are cast in concrete. And you see some of the form work for that. You can see the window openings that are blocked in, and you can see the exterior air and vapor barriers, the dark barrier that's sprayed onto the to the side of the building. So that's installed. And then you can just make out the framing around one of the doors. And so that's in line with those steps. The center top photo is the elevator shaft. And so the site has been filled in around it now, the foundation for it. And so you can see the two-story shaft that goes up and connects to the classrooms. And the blue material is waiting for the siding. So that's and you can see some of the blocking around the top of it that's at the roof level. So that's getting closer and closer. And the lower level just shows you from the top of the adjacent wing where that elevator gets tucked into the corner. So that's, you can see a lot of the roofing materials are on top of that classroom bar as well. The top right photo is the new stair that I talked about earlier in one of the slides. So the steel for that is up. The railings, you can see them, and at that time, still waiting to pour some of the concrete, but that's moving along nicely. And then below that is just the some of the roofing materials for the new addition. So that's you see some of the membrane in rolls, and you can see some of the insulation that's on top of the roof as well. So that's really the sort of progress from the outside of the building at that in the last recent weeks here. Okay. Reiki, phases 4 and 5. We've got a lot of progress to report here. So the flooring and baseboards are being installed in the classrooms, and that pretty much completes those. We have had a verbal certificate of occupancy. We're waiting for the official certificate of occupancy to come in, but that was last Friday. And the school's already begun cleaning up and moving into those classroom spaces. And so we've sent along the updated phasing plan for to the city for phase 5 construction, and that's on track now. And so Hardy Pond's getting ready to move to the second floor and begin the construction of the barrier that'll separate the school from the construction activities, and really ready to start when school returns in January. Phase 5 will be underway. So fairly clean transition between phases here. And then, as noted at the beginning, we have an update on the roof leak repair. So we submitted designs and received pricing from the contractor and subcontractors for that, and we'll share all that in a bit here to go into a little more detail. So the photos show the completed classrooms. So you can see classroom 106, which is the one that actually has the bump out. That was the greenhouse, or as we've termed it at times. And so you can see the installed casework and door frames, flooring, all installed. Classroom 108 is shown on the right-hand side. So you can see the cubbies and some of the other casework, so all new classrooms ready for occupancy at that time. No more waffle slab. All right, moving on. Presumpscot, really things moving along. Now we're kind of at the final stretch here of construction. So in the front addition, there's been the mechanical unit that provides the ventilation has been, we've had a startup of it. So that's a kind of an official part of bringing that piece of equipment online. We have completed what we call our punch list, which is when we go through and review the work that's been done and identify anything that needs touch-ups. The bike racks have been installed, and the seat walls in the front and the admin spaces have been turned over, and teacher's room. And so look to complete the remaining work over the December break, and then open up the front entry when the kids come back in January. So that's pretty exciting. The major rear addition, we've got rubber flooring going in all the classrooms. We've got painting going on right now, which is exciting. We've got some ceiling being installed in the classrooms and in the hallways, and we have some additional wall sanding and going on in the cafeteria. They're installing the ventilation ductwork. We'll see some pictures of that, I believe. We've got exterior brick that's they completed now on the exterior of the rear addition, but we're installing the sealant joints at control joints in the brick that allow the brick to move and not crack at certain locations. Lighting going in the ceilings in the classrooms in the art and music, and then installing the heating elements, the baseboard radiation around the perimeter, and as mentioned, one of the ceilings is a wood ceiling in the corridor. So that is progress right now. Challenges on this one. We talked a little bit about the items in the front that have been slowing things down to complete the entrance. And so that's specifically the precast stair, but that's again in the seat walls. But we're now the tactile, the wall panels are really the siding materials, what we're waiting for. But like I said, we're anticipating having that ready to go, the entrance to be open in time for the startup in January. The bigger item, though, is impacts the rear addition, and this is very late breaking news here. This happened in the last day or so. That the transformer delivery from CMP is delayed. And so instead of getting the turnover as we thought we would in the middle of January, it gets pushed to February. And so that's out of our control in some respects. Don't think it's going to impact too much. And in fact, I think it provides a little bit more of a time frame to have a move-in occur. So that's actually going to be perhaps a little less stressful to try to get everything put in place and started up. So the sequence of the completion of the rear, we have the certificate of occupancy inspection, that's by the city, and that'll occur in the middle of January 18th. And we have our punch list for the rear, as I mentioned, that's our checklist to go through and see if there are any loose ends that need to be tightened up by the contractor. They will complete that work the last days of January here, and then we have to start that flush out of the spaces with ventilation to get all the off-gassing out of it, and that flush out, that's a lead requirement, but that flush out will occur as soon as all the work by the contractor is done. So that's anticipated from the 27th to February 3rd. And then once that is done and the school has the ability to move all their things into the cafeteria and then start setting up into the final spaces, the 18th to the 26th, that's the week of February break. And then students and teachers get to enjoy their new spaces starting February 27th. So, so that's, I don't know if, again, there's, Ange, I don't know if you have any additional comments you want to make in that regard.
Yeah, I think it just felt easier to wait till February break to make this move because it was going to be super tight, even if the delivery from CMP. So even if we got power from CMP, it was really feeling like we were going to, it was going to have to be on a weekend that wasn't a 3-day weekend. And I don't think that's realistic. It's far more realistic. And Mike, the custodial, my lead custodian feels that, doing this on February break means that we should be able to, because we are using a mover. I don't know if that was mentioned. We will be able to pack up all the stuff, move it into classrooms, and unpack for teachers. And then because we have our cool new cafeteria space, we're going to throw in, I know this sounds terrible right after February break and people can judge the heck out of me, but we're going to throw in a nice little movie for pre-K, K1, and then do the same thing for the upper grades to give teachers some time to just sort of acclimate to their new, right? It's not about unpacking. It's really about like, oh, wow, I have a new room. Where is everything? So to give teachers a chance to acclimate, and we feel like it'll be, as Aura, you were asking, I feel like it'll be less impact on teachers and students. So I'm super, super psyched. And I'll get into that all cafeteria much earlier than February break, because as soon as that punch list is done, I'm in. And people will move also into their office space, I think, as well. So it feels good.
Great. Thanks, Angie.
And thank you to Tamara and, by the way, Steve, who have been meeting with movers. Like they met, I think, the fourth moving company. And I think we've hit a winner chicken dinner. But they definitely have spent a lot of evening hours at my school walking movers around. So much thanks to those guys.
All right, great. I will move on to, so after the building itself and is completed in February, we've got a little bit of time before the weather warms up, hopefully not too long, but there's still a series of site work items that we've identified here that will happen as soon as things warm up. And that includes loam and seed on the grass areas and some plantings, demolition of the modular classrooms. So that's a good thing. And finally moving past having the modulars at Presumpscot. So, and then we've got removal of the temporary road, and then installing some curbing and paving that will happen, and then striping that will happen, and cleaning all that up. So that'll happen, like I said, as soon as weather gets warm enough. Right now, tentatively, it's scheduled for the middle of May. And if things warm up sooner, we might actually move that up a little bit. So the photos for Presumpscot, you can see the entrance on the left-hand side of the page here. And so it's still waiting to have a few more things done, but you can see the bike rack that we talked about installed. And this is obviously before the big snow falls. You won't be able to see all the pathways, but the pathways are defined and compacted. Some of the concrete at the sidewalk is where it comes down for accessibility is underneath some of that plywood right there. And you can see the ladders against the area we're still waiting for that siding material, the tactile panels. Those will go up where we see the window and the ladders around the entrance. But you can now see the doors and the glass at the entrance itself. And the sign is up on the new addition as well. Presumpscot Elementary School. In the middle, we have the cafeteria window. It's in the corner there looking out onto the site. And so that's completed. You can see the walls that were being taped and mudded and sanded. And so those are nearing completion. And then below that in the center, we have the ceiling that's going up in the corridor. That shot's taken outside of the cafeteria. There's a little gathering spot with some light on the right-hand side, and the entrance to the cafeteria is on the left-hand side of that. And so this is looking down towards the door, actually to the art music rooms and toilet rooms and to the exterior door. And then the upper right, we have a ceiling being installed in the art room, and just below that we have a curtain wall that's in the corner over in the kindergarten wing. So there's a little gathering spot at the end of the corridor that goes down to the K and pre-K classrooms, and so that window is all installed. And there's some little bit of roof edge that has to go on, but again, getting really, really close. Pretty exciting. Okay. An update on FFE. So we've taken an inventory of furniture at Presumpscot, and then we have a list of essentials or prioritized items that are needed. That's been reviewed with Principal Taylor, and I think we're awfully close to moving forward. There's some temporary items that are being used to make do for now until the order gets placed and the furniture comes in, but we're really close to that. And then we have looked at establishing kind of a process to begin the effort for Reiki and Longfellow in early 2023. And so part of that is understanding where we are with contingency funds and how much is left to go into FFE. So we'll talk a little bit about that in a second here, but so we're now starting to dig into it. Some of the FFE's already been spent on technology, and I think we mentioned that months ago at the beginning of all this, that a lot of the instructional technology and some other infrastructure needed has been inventoried and ordered, and some of it's installed now. So when we think about FFE, that technology piece is a part of it, not just desks and chairs and classroom furniture. What we had looked at is after we had moved some of the funds for the delay claims, about 1.2 established for FFE, and so that's what we're still looking at. One of the things that is going on right now, also with Dave Lewis on board, Dave has taken a tremendous amount of time and care getting up to speed with and coordinating with the finance department to understand all the expenses, not only on these three schools, but also understanding what had been spent at Lyseth. And so we have, I think, a very, very strong accounting of everything that has been spent to date or committed to date. And so we're sort of, I know Dave is kind of going through that to the point where once we're certain with the information, we'll come back and share an update with all of you on the overall budget and where things are in every line item. So it's a lot of effort that Dave has undertaken and a lot of great work. So, but right now, again, we're looking at about 1.2. Of that 1.2, the expenses on technology total about 715. So a little more than half of that budget. A lot of it was, and this was all done in concert with the district's IT staff to ensure that we had what was needed for all three schools. So that right now is kind of a snapshot of the FFE that will get updated as we move forward too, as well as also understanding any other funding that may be available to help assist in the furniture purchases for three schools. So stay tuned on a little bit more on that. Just for context, to understand the relative comparison of what we spent for Lyseth, we spent about just under 130,000 for furniture, and that outfitted the library, the kindergarten and pre-K classrooms, the office area, and some additional furniture and some of the new spaces, specialized spaces that we created. So that gives you just a rough idea of what we spent there. And then for the technology at Lyseth, we spent about $100,000 on new equipment and technology needs.
Yes, Annie. Go ahead, Annie.
I'm sorry, I missed the information, and maybe you didn't have it in the slide yet, how much the furniture at Presumscott cost.
Yeah, we're not done the entire inventory. The first list of identified needs, I want to say, is around the mid-20s, and so $1,000. And so that was primarily for office spaces and conference rooms. So that's the approximate value of that.
I'm sorry, $20,000?
It was just above 20,000. Yeah.
Thank you.
Emily Hurley.
You're muted, Emily.
Thanks, Angie. I'm trying to understand the furniture expenditure for Lyseth. This was only for new spaces. Is that accurate, or did
Yeah, that was the primary, correct. That was the primary focus of furniture, was to outfit the new spaces. We knew we couldn't do the entire school. And so we evaluated where there was an absolute necessity to outfit with furniture. And so that was the new spaces. Correct.
Thank you.
But Mark, just to test my understanding, once we can look at the FFE needs for Longfellow and Reiki as well, we might have additional resources for Presumscott, right? We're going to look at the three schools together once we deal with the immediate needs at Presumscott.
That's absolutely correct. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on this?
Okay, moving to contingency update. So these are as of the end of November, and so we look again at the contractor requisitions and what's been requisitioned for or being billed to the district. And so the remaining contingency at Longfellow is at that time $465,000. The remaining contingency at Reiki is $262,000. And the remaining contingency at Presumscott is $79,000. And so those are where we were again at the end of November. And we then evaluated what we think we have that we're going to expend moving forward. So for Longfellow, we've got another 11 months, and just looking forward at what we had for contractor proposals for changes and some additional requests for work being done in some of the classrooms for technology. Right now, we're kind of conservatively saying we're going to use the 465. For Presumscott, we have about a month left. That's actually extended a little bit now, 2 months, but that delay by the transformer isn't going to add any scope. So we're projecting with some credits that we have coming back and some additional expenses that we're going to have about $75,000 remaining from the contingency funds for Presumscott. So that'll be available to go back to other needs for the projects. And then for Reiki, we anticipate that we'd have about $125,000. That one also has 11 months left, but again, it has an expense rate for its changes less than Longfellow, and we kind of covered that previously when we transferred the funds that we did to these contingencies. But we still anticipate that we'd have about $125,000 if we didn't have the roof repair, and so that's why there's an asterisk next to that. So we would anticipate that we'd have about $200,000 left outside of the roof repair. I'll pause for a second. Is there any questions before I move down to the roof repair? Okay. So as we've been reporting in previous meetings, we were waiting for kind of the full level of investigation to understand what was going on, and then waiting for the contractor to price it. These are pictures that show a couple different conditions. One, the smaller photo on the left-hand side identifies where we actually took and cut through the concrete topping slab that was the top layer of the roof over the brickwork. So this is the plaza between the community side and the school side. And so there's multiple layers that we can see in this cut right here. And so you can see that there's some insulation in pink. You can also see that there's a membrane that was applied to another topping slab, and that's blue. And then that is on top of the actual structural slab, the waffle slab, below that. So there are multiple layers that were added over time. Not sure the rationale for how or why they were built up in the way they were. But the challenge is when you've got a membrane for the roof that's sandwiched below concrete topping slab, it's awfully difficult to identify where the leaks occur and something like that, because the leak could occur and it'll find its way to a low spot and then drip into the building itself. And so at one time, there was a trench drain installed, and you can see it's a long, narrow, continuous drain that was installed, and that's on the right-hand side picture. You can see it just at the bottom of the picture. But you can also see some water that does make its way to the drain, but you can also see water making its way to the door area. And so on both sides, there's a larger continuous window wall system with doors in it. And so you can see the glass window wall on the left-hand side very clearly. It also occurs on the right-hand side, just in a different location. So that's the and we're looking towards the Brackett Street side of the building. So that's the those are sort of conditions that allowed us to sit there and identify where the failures were occurring. Originally, we quoted something that we thought, well, a new roof demo in the new roof would be to the tune of $100,000, and that's true, and that bears itself out a bit in the breakdown that we see. But the total cost for the correction involves replacing those window wall systems. Those window wall systems are old and leaking, and they're inefficient. But and the joint between the roof and the window wall is also prone to a lot of the leaking. And so the new window wall is actually going to be the sill of it, the bottom of it, is going to be raised up above the floor by about 16 inches. And new wall system will be installed, and that's actually a fairly significant amount of the cost of this. It's actually more than the roof work, and so, but the end result will be a much improved interior environment that we have sealed up the water on the outside, and so. So the roof work will occur, flashing both from the roof up to the window wall systems, as well as to the roof edges on the front and back, where the brickworks or the plaza faces the streets.
Jessica, go ahead, please.
Wondering if we could back up a minute and remind me how we got to this place where we need this work done, because originally a totally new roof for Reiki was in the scope of the work. And then we were told that that work did not need to happen, that that could be taken out of the scope, that this was a fairly straightforward repair. So it was surprising to me last month when you presented it and said, as we all know, the roof at Reiki has been leaking for years, because I was under the impression it was no longer leaking. And now we're looking at a $300,000 new roof. So at what point was this taken out of the scope, and now it's back in? Seems like something was missed along the way. Has this gotten this much significantly worse over the past 2 years that now it requires a $300,000 project? So, I mean, obviously, as someone who's been through this for a long time, we've talked about the Reiki roof for many years. Everyone remembers the pictures of the buckets that were in the campaign in 2017. So how did this get overlooked? I guess is my question.
No, I appreciate the question, Jessica. So the scope, there's a big change from the scope when we originally reviewed these three projects, also in even thinking about the Lyseth's project. Originally, when Oak Point did the scopes, they included a fairly significant amount of envelope work. So that included roofs, it included walls, insulation, and whatnot. And through the series of scope reductions to get the project within budget, the envelope work had been removed. And so that's consistent across all of the projects that we've done. The roof work hasn't been done on them. There was noted in our in the early phases of the Reiki project that there were leaks on the in this particular area, and they were observed through the district for several years. And so we had a series of inquiries to understand, did they have any further information about them? That was not, we didn't have sort of a definite idea of what was causing those at the time that we went to bid. And so this particular area was further evaluated because the leaking was worse, and when we started seeing some of that when we got into the construction, but it was worse than other general areas of the roof itself. And so I think I've said in the past that that's not uncommon for roofs to have leaks, and that's a maintenance issue that's ongoing at several of the schools. But this scope of work again was not identified in terms of the cause of it. We thought initially it would be something we could do with ceiling joints, or potentially looking at just a localized repair, which is often done for roofs. So that's a little bit of the history. The re-roofing of the roofs or of the school was not in the scope when we definitively said, okay, we're going to do this particular level of work for the Reiki school, and that was back in the spring of I want to say 2020 that we landed on the scopes for the three school projects.
Steve, do you want to add anything before we go to Emily, who has her hand up? Okay, let's go to Emily, and then maybe we can hear more from Steve. Go ahead, Emily.
I agree with Jessica. It was very surprising that this wasn't a part of the scope of work. My question is around when the ramps were removed. Was there any, so for those people who are new to the Przemska or to the Reiki project, there were 2 ramps that were removed pretty early, like almost before, I don't remember exactly the time frame, but around the bond, the ramps were deemed unsafe and were removed. And I'm wondering if there was any work done to the roof at that point. And that might be a city or a school board or school question, but what has been done to try to address this problem in recent years?
Yeah, Emily, I think probably best answered. I don't know, Mr. Stilfen, if you were here during that time frame when the ramps were removed, or if that even occurred before your
it was
arrival.
Before my tenure, but we have put main roofing on that roof at least to the tune of 30 grand in repairs, caulking, everything else to do it, except for cutting into it, because quite frankly, people were reluctant to cut into 2 layers of concrete. So it's been an issue well before I arrived here. And when they removed those ramps, what I did here is that it was looked at in conjunction with removing the ramps to join the 2 buildings with a roof system. And that had been looked at to be funded by CIP, which we never had it in our portfolio for CIP.
Annie, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I'm just thinking about some questions I might get. And one of them is, technically the window wall is going to be on the community side of the building and not the school. And so I can imagine somebody might ask me the question, and I'm asking you to get the answer. Why isn't the city paying for the $150,000, and why is it coming out of the Reiki school renovation budget?
Again, I'll defer to the school district in terms of the funding for portions of the building. That
I can't answer that for you, except for it's a change order, just like we've had change orders for Reiki in the lobby and the firewall. that was generated by code of 175,000. It's like any change order we get in these three projects. However, they're driven by omission, error, or code. We absorb them into the school, into this renovation project of the school. I don't have the capacity to go to the city and say, pay $150,000 because it's leaking on this side of the wall. It's leaking in our school, that building.
Yeah, I think that's helpful. I think I was looking for the distinction, because a lot of people don't understand how the community center and the school are separate but are together at the same time.
Yeah, and
I would add that in order to complete the project, we need to make this repair. And so, we're committed to getting this project done and doing it right. And that certainly means getting rid of the water in the building. And so this is what it's going to take to get the project done. And I do think, the window wall isn't just on the community, the community part of the building. It's the community center, excuse me. It's also on the Reiki side as well. Matthew?
Yeah, I can't get the full view of it from the picture you have here, Mark. I'm just wondering, with the removal of the ramp prior to these projects, is that area still part of an egress route, or is that now just an upper level balcony, for lack of a better description?
Correct. It's the latter. This is no longer needed. We will be providing operable windows to get access. Should need be some casements that you could use to get access onto the roof, but no longer will we have doors to access on top of it. Don't need it.
So yeah, you're starting to answer my question. So you've looked at this in the most cost-effective manner. You're not trying to replace a rooftop area for people to gather and stand. You're trying to do this as simply and inexpensively as possible.
Yeah, we're gonna remove all these extraneous concrete layers and put down tapered insulation and membrane. And so it'll be a better thermally performing. It'll also again be a barrier for the water. And the window wall itself, like I said, is going to be raised up a little bit. It'll be a higher performing window wall than currently what's there, certainly.
There'll be no doors, no thresholds.
Right. There'll be no thresholds that allow water to come into the building.
Yeah, and you're going to minimize glass area, or?
You actually, the challenge that we have, the Reiki is one of these very broad floor plates, and so the window walls actually play an important role in bringing natural light into portions of the building, because it just doesn't have a lot of exterior exposure. And so that was one of the considerations we looked at. We looked at the degree to which we traded off just putting punched openings or smaller windows into this area. We compared that with the amount of light that we were getting, the number of building trades that were going to be required, and the number of joints that we would be putting into the wall itself. And the most efficient solution was to, and also the one that provided more daylight, was to go back with just a storefront system, a thermally broken storefront system.
Okay, just looking at the picture, it's hard to tell. It just looks like there are a bunch of curtains drawn down over the windows. So it's one of the reasons I was asking.
Yeah, understand. They on both sides, particularly I think also on the school side, just that sense of getting light into to the central space, the library, and that central space. It would be really cavernous and dark if without the introduction of the light from this area of the building.
Just if there aren't any other questions on this, I do really want to acknowledge how late we are in the process to be identifying a repair of this magnitude, and this has been an issue from the very, very start of the project. So I think we're lucky that, as we'll get to in a minute, that it looks like we have the room in the budget, or we do have the room in the budget to make this this change order, which we absolutely have to do because we can't have water in the new building. So just acknowledging that it took us a really long time to get here, but we're going to get this work done. So we get the roof repaired, finally get the roof repaired correctly and stop having water in the building.
Okay, I'm going to move to the next one, but if there are any questions further about it, we can definitely address those. And so one of the things we did is sort of say, okay, well, how do we move forward with the recommended repair? And so our projected contingency surplus right now, as I mentioned, for Longfellow, we think we're going to use the $465,000 that's remaining in the next 11 months. For Presumpscot, we're suggesting that we take the $75,000 that we're projecting as surplus, or $75,000 of that $79,000, and then to transfer that to the Reiki contingency. And so the Reiki contingency, we would then, if we shifted that $75,000, brings the Reiki contingency up to $337,000, which if we'll still have $48,000 left after the roof repair. So that, but a note that we still have 11 months to go on Reiki, and we don't think that that $48,000 is going to be enough to complete the project. We don't know exactly how much additional amount that we're going to need, but we project that we're still going to need some. So while the shifting of the surplus funds for Presumpscot helps us to go forward and make the award for the roof repairs, we still are probably going to have to find some additional funds to fortify the Reiki contingency. So that's sort of an item that we'll address and sort of the near future. But right now, the importance is the need to get this, get the contractor going on the roof repair itself. I'll pause for a moment.
Sarah?
Thank you. So, Mark, when we've had these situations before with like Seth, and we've had to scale back on furniture or scale back on this and that, what are you going to propose to us to cover that deficit? And or we obviously can't go back to the city council if we don't have the money, we don't have the money. So what is the plan of action in your opinion? Are we going to have options presented to us as to where we're going to come up with the money?
Yes, Sarah, that's exactly right. We'll have some options. We anticipate that there are some line items that we didn't expend the full amount of that we'll be able to use for fortifying that Reiki contingency. And so, but we'll come back with a full set of recommendations for that. We don't know exactly all the math of what that is yet, but we feel comfortable that we'll have enough to be able to cover that.
Can you send out to us the line by line where you're seeing some additional funds that might become available?
We will, absolutely. That is the homework that Mr. Lewis, absolutely right. That's the homework Mr. Lewis has been working diligently
before,
on.
I know you can come up with various scenarios as to how we could save the money or move the money, et cetera. But I think the part of the DABC too is to have some input into that before I know that the final decision for change orders, et cetera, and moving the money comes to the DABC. But I'd like to see what the options are before you guys, start making those. So we could, potentially maybe have suggestions, not that we are the experts in this, but at the same time, I want to see what all the options are line by line.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I appreciate that. And just for instance, there's a line item that's called project reserves on all 4 projects. And on the latest 3, we didn't use that project reserve fund. And so that's one instance, for instance, but we'll make it very clear about what all the different line items are.
Now, how much are those project reserves?
On that, again, I'm going to hold off on giving any numbers until we give you all of the information.
Okay. So we'll have a full accounting before our next.
It's a fluid process.
Okay. So, but before our next meeting, are we going to have a special meeting to address it, or what?
I don't think we need a special one. I think our normal course of providing information, we'll add it. It'll go through a process of we sort of share the information immediately with the co-chairs of the DABC and the superintendent and administration, just to make sure again that we've got our information correct, and then we'll share it with the DABC, and then we'll share it with the BLAC. So it'll be very transparent, and everyone will see exactly the same level of information.
So timing wise, we'll be okay for that.
Yeah, I think we're in very good shape for that.
Okay. All right. Yep. Thank you very much.
And Sarah, just to make a clarification on this, it's my understanding that these aren't trade-offs we're going to have to make. This is money that we haven't spent that we can reallocate. So Dave is going through a very exhaustive process of essentially ensuring that we're looking very comprehensively and at a very detailed level, and essentially figuring out where we have money remaining that we haven't spent.
Okay, that's good. I know, having served on Lyseth and done Rowe and served on several schools before that was where the go-to was. So thank you.
Yeah. I'll weigh in since my name keeps coming up. It's as Emily noted, it's an exhaustive and exhausting process of looking at every line in the budget for not just the three schools. There's still Lyseth is still in play a little bit. There was some additional money there that hadn't been spent. So we're getting copies of all the purchase orders, for example, for the IT equipment to make sure it's accounted for as expended or committed against the budget, just to make sure we don't have any surprises. And we're still collating the information, but we'll have a good summary prior to the next meeting.
Emily, I have a follow-up to Dave.
Sure.
So Dave, myself and several other people here served, I know Matthew did, on the Lyseth, and we went through the grueling process of cutting. And now I'm just, I guess, a little taken aback to hear that, there was still money there at Lyseth and we didn't put it back into Lyseth. And now we're using it because we had Lyseth cut back on their projects significantly in various areas. And now, it's just it doesn't seem right that we're taking the money that we cut back on Lyseth to use it for the other schools when we've tried to work to create equity. I don't know. It just doesn't sit well with me, I guess. And I've been working on this for so long. But...
Sarah, the money that's left is for the sign.
So I guess my question to that is the money that's left from Lyseth. So then if you use that money, you're not going to have a sign? Like, could you?
No, the money that I see that's left for Lyseth is to pay for the sign.
Right, but I thought I just heard Dave say that there's money left there and that potentially would go into the pot to cover up this short change. Am I understanding that correctly, or did I hear that wrong? I'm sorry.
No, you heard it correctly. What we're finding at Lyseth is there are specific lines on the budget, like construction testing. There was a contract amount for that. All of that wasn't spent. So there's still a little money left on that line item. Same for, I think, commissioning, or I don't have a spreadsheet open right now, but there are just little specific lines where there is still a little money available that can be moved around. I think there may have still been some contingency money left at Lyseth.
Okay,
it's not a lot, but it's
okay.
That'd
be good to see that as part of the plan, Dave. Thank you very much.
Oh yeah. I'm looking at every penny.
Dave, I want to just thank you for the exhaustive and exhausting process. Really appreciate all the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Ms. Russell-Better?
Thanks. Mark, I was just wondering if you could help me understand the remaining contingency for Longfellow. just in thinking like, is that, you know, is there going to be some need to pull from that? But can you just remind me what that was originally? And just to kind of get a sense of where that's at for what you know, what it was at the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Numbers.
Yeah. In fact, it might be helpful, or if I go back to the previous slide,
Yes.
Right here.
Yes.
Yeah. So Longfellow, we originally had 550 or so thousand. Again, these are all derived as 5% of construction contract value. We infused, we were getting low on that one for a whole series, and then we presented what all those changes were that led to that, but and we were getting very low. So we shifted, as you can see here, 406,000 from the Reiki and Presumpscot, because at the point where we looked at that, we said, you know, our projected drawdown was such that we felt comfortable we can move some funds to those. Again, we didn't know the roof repair was going to be in play to the tune of $288,000 at that time. So that amount that we borrowed from those two brought us up to 961, and so we've spent about half of that value to date. And so going forward, again, there currently is a change that's out there for some changes to technology that is again, this is just the cost that the contractor put forward, but it's about $95,000. And so that also would be a big hit. We still have other items that we know are coming up on that project as well. So in thinking about Longfellow, we just wanted to be a little bit on the conservative side and leave that intact, because we know as we project forward that we're gonna draw down against that 460, and so that's why that one is, you know, what it is, and it's the nature of that building, that it has more unforeseen conditions than Reiki, for instance, which has a similar construction duration, but fewer unforeseen conditions, just because it has a very wide open floor plate that didn't have a lot of things to tear apart. It was all wide open concept.
Okay, thank you. So that amount you're saying is what feels comfortable to have left for Longfellow. So
correct.
You'd be anticipating trying to transfer that to the other funds. Okay, and the way that's figured out, I think you just explained it, but the amount that you feel comfortable is partially the amount of time left in the project and just those specific things that you know in that project are potentially going to come up. So that amount right now is kind of just in that window of what you think may be really necessary.
That is exactly correct. That's exactly
great.
what we did.
You.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Angie?
Thanks. Can you guys hear me? I'm not using a mic today. I just want to go back to the conversation around like equity and, you know, the schools. I think as we, you know, it doesn't sound like there's a lot left in the license account, but when we're really talking about it, I think we got to think about, so what did we spend at Lyseth? What did we spend at Presumpscot, at Longfellow, at Reiki, right? And in the end, what did Lyseth end up with? Like, did they get furniture, for instance, because they were the first school to be built, right? Where they didn't have to worry about the same situation we're in now, where we're three schools sort of trying to get our needs met. And I totally get it. But like, you know, did they get everything that they needed at Lyseth? You know, I would want to look at that too, you know, so that every school gets something, right? And because we're finishing first, we shouldn't get all the furniture money, right? I think it's great that you guys are waiting to do that until the end. But like, if Lyseth have gotten everything, then the contingency money should come over to the three schools that are being worked on right now.
Yeah, and Angie, I hear that. I mean, the way we got to this point where we finished Lyseth, close to finished Presumpscot, and well on our way with Longfellow and Reiki, is that we all came together to get these projects done. And so that's been the way that we've advanced them throughout. It's always a little tricky, or as we've been going through the construction process, it's been tricky, but I think we've done our best to try and maintain equity across the projects. We know that hasn't been entirely possible, like at Longfellow, where we're not making the full scope of the renovations that we had anticipated. So we're doing the best with the money that we have. And I think I heard Angie say gorgeous earlier. So I'm just gonna, in the chat. So I'm just gonna lift that up. I walk into Reiki now and I'm like, this is gorgeous. So I'm just gonna appreciate that. All right, so Mark, I think we're almost through the slides.
We are, yes. The next one is simply where we are with next steps. And so right now, our next scheduled DABC meeting is January 19th. It'll at 6 o'clock, and we're proposing building tours for Saturday, January 21st right now. So we'll actually go in, and for those who haven't seen some of the gorgeous transformation, you'll be able to come along on a tour with us. And so more particulars on that, but open to both DABC and BLAC committee members. And so we encourage folks who want to come out and see the great work that's been done. You can get firsthand accounting. And then our next BLAC meeting is January 26th at 6 p.m. And then we also want to look at, in the not too distant future, think about our Presumpscot ribbon cutting, but we've got some time to plan that. And the question is, do we want to do it in snowshoes, or do we want to do it in our spring mud shoes? So, but we can, we've got flexibility there. So, and that is our show tonight. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. That is very exciting. I look forward to that. All right. If there aren't other questions, are there any last minute questions or any final questions? Because then I do want to just go back to the minutes from our last meeting. Yes, Emily.
I understand that. So I joined because I was at the building level committee. So I'm assuming going back to the separate meeting. So I won't be at this meeting, I'm assuming, again. But I would just want to know, as I watch the meeting in January, how we are going to support schools say the budget is exhausted and we aren't able to supply brand new classrooms with desks. Like, for example, my son is in a classroom, gorgeous. It is gorgeous. And he has a desk from 1970, which I saw during conferences. His teacher does a wonderful job of making it a cozy, lovely place to learn, and he loves school. But he's sitting in a desk that is older than me. So I would just really appreciate how we are going to move forward and what the plan is for outfitting these classrooms that are absolutely stunning with current equipment.
Thank you so much for raising that, Emily. I think I absolutely hear you. I think we don't know yet, right? We have to be we have the money we have. And it actually, just if you look through the numbers based on what we spent at Lyseth on furniture, we're in a good place. We still, but it's hard to say because we can't fully anticipate everything. So hopefully we are at a place where we have money that we can move into the furniture budget, the FFE budget, and more fully outfit the schools. And I absolutely hear you. All right. Any other questions or comments? Okay. And then I want to, given that we met as a joint committee at our last meeting, I want to just go ahead and consider the minutes together. So what I'm going to do is ask for a motion and a second to approve the minutes. They were in board docs, so hopefully everyone had a chance to review them. And then I'll ask for a vote, and just with a show of hands, anyone who's a member of either of the two committees, if you can vote. So is there a motion to approve our minutes from the November 17th, 2022 meeting? Anyone? Sarah, seconded by Aura. Okay, all in favor, or are there any edits or changes or corrections? Okay, excellent. So all in favor, just with a show of hands, if you're on one of the two committees. All right, so it looks to be unanimous. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you to the Harriman team and to the Portland Public Schools staff team who are with us tonight. Really greatly appreciate all that you're doing to move these projects forward. I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday season, and we will see you in January. So good night, everyone.